Hi there, fellow crafters. This is going to be like one of those quick, in a minute little tips for you, and it's one of those happy circumstances where I can't believe I didn't think of this before. I was actually cleaning out my makeup supplies the other day, and I have these things called cosmetic wedges, which I'm sure a majority of you probably have never even heard of before, but they're these lovely little wedge shape latex type of material that normally people use to put their makeup on. However, I have ridiculously sensitive skin, and for some reason these suckers set it off. So instead of throwing them out, I just kind of tucked them into our, well, maybe pile. I can use it for something else. And tonight was the night I discovered our maybe, because I went to start working on some terrain pieces for my husband's game with some friends of his, and didn't have any sponges. And of course, with some of the terrain pieces, I like to use a sponge for the stone effect. So what I did was I took a little wedge here, and then just using my fingernails, you could use scissors if you want to get it started, but just took my fingernail and ripped off a bottom layer like this. Worked on getting it about a little bit more even as possible, but it gives you, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up because it's so late at night now, but it gives a really fantastic texture on the bottom here from just ripping it off and not cutting it. And then when I started to use it for sponging, I couldn't believe how nicely it was starting to blend the paint. And at the same time, I discovered that it's also acting as almost a dry brush because it was highlighting the edges as I went along. So it was almost like a double whammy result. And I'm really surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised, actually. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up working on these terrain pieces that I have going. So stay tuned after this little, blippity blip that I'm doing right now. And I'm going to show you a picture of the new terrain pieces that I'm doing right now, next to the traditional pieces that I've done using, kitchen sponge and dry brushing and everything like that. And it's one of those things where if you're looking for a 2-for-1 type of tool, this little sucker, surprisingly, whoa, okay. So yeah, you might have to brave going into the makeup section, and if you're brave enough to do it, guys. Usually they keep these with the cotton balls and the little circle cotton pads and things like that. Q-tips, okay? Yeah, the Q-tips. And that's probably where you're gonna find these. So yeah, cosmetic wedge for sponging and highlighting your edges. 2-in-1, washable, reusable. Just let it dry a little bit. And actually, if you wet it down ahead of time before you start using your paint, you probably use about half the paint that you normally would need to with a sponge. So kind of cool. Anyways, that's it. Quick tip. Not going to go through the whole process, but I will do, pictures of the two pieces side by side so you can see how everything looks in the end. As always, thanks so much for stopping by and watching. Have a great whatever it is you're doing right now. Bye! So here you have the two pieces side by side. The smaller one is the new terrain that I used the cosmetic wedge on. The larger one is one that I did using a typical kitchen sponge and a brush for dry brushing. And surprisingly, there's not too much of a difference between the two outside of the fact that the larger one does have some sand on it. We opted not to do sand on the other one. Here you can see the edges and the details that were brought up. Again, the smaller one was using the cosmetic wedge, where you just take the longer length of the sponge itself and drag it across, and you get the same effect. This is a close-up of the sponging effect that you get using the wedge. Again, it's very similar to just using a kitchen sponge, but you use a lot less than others. And here you have the two stacked up on top of each other. And, same person who painted it, same color blending concept, outside of the fact we also wanted it to match our outdoor terrain, but hey, it works. I feel like it's like a bad horror film, Home Alone, except it's like bright daylight right now, but there's someone trying to get in the house. Save me. Save me from the thing that I wanted to happen. I'm not even kidding. Ah! A ladder just fell outside. This is the face of I can't even. They're loud. Very loud. You almost want to tell him, can you get a good beat going? Like, I'll just play house music for him and just keep with the beat. If anyone's looking to get the roof redone, it sucks. Don't get me wrong, looks great now that it's, you know, the roof's on. We'll see what the gutters do, but if I ever hear another hammer again, I think I'm gonna scream.